I often get asked, what is the hybrid motion attack offense? Well, it's a combination between two tried and true systems that have been excellent over the years and been in many gyms. One is the motion offense and one is the dribble drive attack offense. I spent time over my career running both, and I ran them separately. And I loved them both. We got a lot of great things out of both offenses. I was always trying to figure out a way to better it though, and to find something for when we got stuck. We seemed to get stuck in both offenses at times. With the dribble drive offense, it's so attack oriented, and it's great with situations off the bounce and the reactions to penetration. And I wanted to keep our teams in that attack mindset. At the same time, when we were shut down or we weren't being as aggressive or teams guarded that well, sometimes we didn't have things to go to. And at those times I thought we needed some screening and some of the motion concepts. On the other hand, when we taught motion, sometimes we would get into the situation where we would stagnate a little bit. We would just get playing catch on the perimeter, or it would just be curl after curl or things like that. And I felt like we needed to get that attack mindset. And I thought we needed some rules within our attack mindset off the bounce. Well, after years and years of kind of going back and forth between the two, we finally settled on what is now the hybrid attack offense. Since fully converting to the hybrid attack offensive system 6 years ago, we've made it to the state semifinals in Iowa 5 out of the last 6 years. We've won the state title 2 times in 2018 and 2019. And this past year, we led in several offensive categories, including most points scored in game average, assists per game, effective field goal percentage, and 3-point percentage. A hybrid attack motion really has 3 main principles that I want to start off talking about. And the first thing is spacing, and that's one of the unique things about the hybrid attack motion offense, is the way we space the floor. So a lot of teams, and I was this way, when we ran a lot of motion, we ran a little bit more high motion, and that's great when you have a dominant post player. But what we want to do with our hybrid attack motion is open up gaps. And so you'll see our spacing might be a little bit different in the way we run this. So what I'm going to start off doing is talk about the spacing of the offense. A couple of the main principles, which is we want to keep the middle open. That's principle number 2. That's going to help us with the hybrid as far as when we get into our motion principles and also when we get into the dribble drive principles. The last element and the main element is we've got to maintain spacing, and we've got to have that attack mentality at all times. So we're going to start off, like I said, with spacing. As you can see, we have 5 guys already spaced pretty well out here. Our point guard, we are right-handed, so we normally do come down the floor on the right-hand side. We have our point guard, Trey, here in the slot. We don't want him too far over on the wing. We may initiate our break up the sideline a little bit more if we can initiate on that pass, but we want him moving into this slot area where he can go in both directions. We have Aaron here in a trail position. He's going to stay wide and behind the basketball and opening up this gap. We have Hunter over here, our 2 sides. So this is the 2 side of the floor. That's the 3 side of the floor. We have our 2 in the deep corner. Once again, trying to keep this gap as wide as possible. That'll give driving lanes. It's harder to help. It's harder to help whether we're in the motion element or whether we're in the dribble drive attack element. We have Dallas over here. We want him a little bit up, not buried in the corner. Since he's away from the ball on this wing, we want him up in what we call a window. So we talk a lot about windowing up. You need to find a window. A lot of times players will get buried, and they will be buried behind the help, and so there is no vision between him and the ball. We want to have vision and sight so that he's always finding an open spot or a window. Our post player, we want him away from the ball. And this, like I said, is going to get into the elements where it will open up cuts for our motion. It'll open up the driving opportunities too. So we want him away from the ball, off the block, and we want him with chest to the basketball. All right, we want him down here. Now, There will be opportunities for our post players to post up at times. For the most part though, we want to still create that space. We'll do our post ups more on quick hitting and flash elements and off cuts. The way we get into it and decide, like we said, it's a hybrid attack offense. The way you determine whether you're in the motion elements or whether you're in the dribble drive elements is going to be determined on basically non-attacking versus attacking dribbles or passes. So for instance, if our player with the ball here attacks, and that's the mindset we want off the bounce. If he can attack, number one, he's going to go as far as he can go. We want our players with the mentality that they're going to get all the way to the rim. So if he can get to the rim, we're going to get to the rim. And that's why we're creating all this space for him, by keeping the middle open and the long spacing. If we are in attack dribble, which is any dribble toward the basket, that means we're in our dribble drive element of the hybrid at that point. In that circumstance, we still want to maintain our spacing, and we may go into what we call a kick up at this point. As we said, we want to maintain space between our shooters and dribblers. In this sense, you want to make sure you look at where the help would be, which would be help there. The guy guarding the dribble, if we're stopped, we're going to try to create more space. So if X2, guarding 2, that's our 2 side for us, helps on 1, the reason why we're going to kick up is to create more space and create a longer closeout here. Getting back to determining whether we're going to be into dribble drive or whether we're going to be in our motion part of our hybrid is going to be, once again, determined on a non-attacking pass or dribble versus an attacking pass or dribble. Anything side to side off the pass that is out on the perimeter, those are non-attacking passes. So anything non-attacking, we are going to be in our motion principles. So if we come across and make a non-attacking pass, that is going to tell the rest of our team that at that point, we're in a motion set. We're in a motion principle. So that may be a simple screen away, we may curl. That might be a screen away into a straight shot cut, and I'll cover these a little more in depth. That might be into a flare cut. Those are our 3 main cuts. Now I'm going to talk about the 3 main actions that we want to make sure that we put into play in our dribble drive part of our system. So the first one being the kick up. So the kick up's going to be remembering that Trey, our point guard, is in attack mode. He's in attack mentality. So when he's in attack mentality, that puts us into an advancing attack dribble. That puts us all into a dribble drive mentality. And so that initiates dribble drive, the dribble drive element of the hybrid offense. Trey's attacking toward the rim. He wants to get all the way to the rack if he can. We're in space right now, okay? Now, if he gets stopped, the one thing that we want to work on, like I said, is the kick up. And this is a little bit different. Primarily, a lot of times, teams get into just a simple drive and kick situation, and that's fine. We will do that within our offense. One nice thing about the kick up, and what we're going to have Hunter do is, instead of staying dead set in the corner, we're going to have him move. And he's going to start with a sprint step. So we always want to sprint to create quicker space. We don't want him sliding. And then you can see that he's already getting his shoulders square to the rim. We want him to get in a position where he can shoot and he can drive. One of the elements that we talked about already was that we want to create long closeouts and big gaps in our offense. Well, with Hunter spacing as he did, instead of staying in the corner, if Hunter's defender helps on Trey, if Hunter stays in the corner, I can stunt and I can still get to Hunter a little bit easier. With the kick up, what that allows us to do is off help, I am now, if I help, Hunter's gone, that's further for me to go. Now I'm in a long closeout. Trey's going to kick to Hunter on this if he's stopped. Now I'm in long closeout. Hunter has 2 things that he can still do. And remember, 2 elements of the attack is that we want to attack. We always want to follow an attack with an attack. And so this attack Attack could be, I'm shooting, okay? But the other attack could be, I'm gonna get downhill off this long closeout. Now, one thing that still needs to happen here, and I'll show you, which is gonna be important, we talked about spacing. Trey now needs to get out, okay? One of the concepts that we started with is we need to keep this middle open and we need to maintain space, all right? So if Trey passes on the kick up here, he needs to vacate to allow Hunter room to get downhill. Now you're gonna hear us talk about another element, which is always coming behind the ball. Now we're gonna freeze here for a moment to give him space, but after Hunter hits this gap, Aaron is gonna come behind him so he has an outlet and window up. We're gonna window up over here, find our window, all right? So he's gonna read the defense and make sure that he's finding his window. And then our post player. On this one, he can clean up, but any drive toward the post player, we're gonna get into a relocation. And so that's one of the elements that our post player is gonna work on and we'll cover later in the video. If we dribble at the post player, he will relocate to the other side. The help's gonna come up, Hunter can finish, he can find window, he's got outlet, he's also got dump now. And it's all based on rotations off the drive. So that's the kick up. The kickback is our second dribble drive element. That's going to trigger our attack portion of the dribble drive portion of our hybrid offense. So same spots, but our kickback is going to be where Trey hits the middle gap. So he's hitting the middle. Once again, the mentality has to be, I'm not going side to side. I am trying to get to the rim. Now, as Trey's going here, once again, we said if we dribble at our post player, what's our post need to do? Exactly right. So Cade's doing a great job of already relocating. What are you going to do, Dallas? You got to find your window, right? So it could be right where you're at. It could be down there. Our kickback is going to be you coming behind. So Aaron's going to come behind. We always want to keep a 6 to 8 foot gap. The larger it can be, the better, to combat switching and to also give a little bit more of a downhill attack element, because remember, every time we do an attack, we want to follow it with another attack. And so Trey's done the initial attack, Aaron's coming behind 6 to 8 feet, and here's one other teaching point, we'll get into this a little bit later too, is that we do not want to do a negative kickback or a negative kick up. And what a negative kickback or a kick up would be, Trey, get the ball again. We want our guy coming behind to be at least even with, which should be about there, or beyond where Trey is with the basketball. The reason being is if you think about where help would be, if I'm helping here on Trey and I'm Aaron's guy, and we kick back in a negative way, say Aaron's in there, what we call as a negative, and this is what we don't want, I can recover to this. That's very easy to recover too. If Aaron gets even with or beyond and I'm in help, now we kick back here, I've got to go through Trey, or now I'm in a trail mode. Or my other option is I go below and hopefully we can knock some of these shots down, because that's something we want in our offense. We want threes and we want things getting to the rack and we want free throws. I mean, those are our three main things that we're looking for. Will we take a mid-range jump shot at times? Absolutely. We'll take it with certain guys and we'll define that for them. But the three main things that we are looking for is number 1, layups, number 2, threes, and really not even number 3, but just a secondary thing is we want to get to the free throw line. Those are the 3 best things when you look at analytics. That's going to make us the most successful at the offensive end. So getting back to this, we want to make sure that we do an even or at least a positive kickback or kick up. In this situation, it's a kickback. Now Trey has come in here. What do you need to do, Trey, at this point? We want to keep the middle open, right? So you need to get out and find space. If he's found his window up here, Trey would find his area out there. If Dallas is down there, Trey, you just come right back up and replace. Aaron is the second part of his attack. Now he's getting downhill. Now if our post player, because he was away from the ball originally, if he's dribbling at you again, what do we want you to do? We want to relocate to create this space. Once again, putting the help in tough positions, creating long closeouts, and creating large gaps, those are our goals. And once again, if we space it right, that's exactly what we're doing. Aaron's got to have the mentality that we're getting right downhill. We're getting to the rim. Once again, this puts this help defender, and that's what we're all about, is putting the help defender in a difficult situation where I've got to make a decision now. Do I want to leave shooter or do I want to come help? All right? And our post player's done a great job of vacating. Now, even getting back to spacing, one of the biggest reasons why we've moved our post player away from the ball is if you have some guys like, let's get back to our reset, okay? Let's reset to our original positions. If you have good drivers, and typically you want to initiate this offense with good drivers up top and your better shooters in the corners, okay? Now, if you can all do both, it's even better. But if you have a point guard, and we've had some good point guards, what we found and why we moved our post player off and why we've taken the principles of the dribble drive, which is that element of our spacing, is we were finding that when we had our post player on the ball side block, like a lot of teams do, what does that do to you, Trey? And you try to hit this gap. What can happen? He's in the way, right? He's just bringing another defender to you. And so that's the crucial reason of why we move that post player away, all right, is to make sure that we open up space for our drivers to initiate our offense.
Hope you enjoyed this hybrid attack offense video. If you want instant access to 5 easy drills for the dribble drive portion of the offense, make sure to click the link in the description so you can gain access to a free PDF featuring diagrams, descriptions, and bonus tips. Again, if you incorporate these drills into your basketball practices, you will see your players improve at attacking the paint and creating easy shots for themselves and their teammates. Make sure to click and subscribe and then click the bell button so you're the first to know when we release more new videos. Thanks for watching.